Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, February 3rd, 2023. On the front page, we have a great big picture of the staff and management of Neepawa Veterinary Clinic Limited. From left to right, we have Peyton Adley, Dr. Liz Ostendorf, Brooke Anderson, Sierra Medever, Chris Inkster, Daisy McKee, Kira McCormick-Adema, and Callie Lucan. The title is A Perfect Choice for Business of the Year by Owen Devereaux. While animal welfare is everyone's business, for Dr. Liz Ostendorf and her staff at Neepawa Veterinary Clinic Limited, it is so much more than that. On Monday, January 30th, Dr. Liz and the clinic were honored at the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce's Business of the Year. The award was bestowed during the Chamber's annual general meeting, which was held at the Neepawa Legion Hall. For Dr. Ostendorf, hearing the clinic named as Neepawa's top business for 2022 was an unexpected honor, especially on a day that was already a special one for her. Yeah, I didn't realize that my staff had nominated us, so they actually surprised me with it on my birthday, that we were being recognized with the award. So yeah, happy birthday, Dr. Ostendorf noted with a chuckle. And it goes on to say, after the announcement on Business of the Year was made, Chamber of Commerce Board President Carrie McPherson congratulated the Neepawa Vet Clinic for its dedication and commitment to the region. Dr. Ostendorf said, while the recognition from the Chamber is incredibly humbling, it is not hers alone to receive. It is humbling, she said. We don't get into this profession to be acknowledged and rewarded for, doing what we do. I love what I do, and that's why I do it. And I wouldn't be here without my staff in general. I really cannot provide the services that I provide or the care that I provide to patients without them. So ultimately, we are a team, Dr. Ostendorf indicated. The vet clinic practice has been owned by Dr. Ostendorf since 2016, who had been working in Neepawa since 2012. The practice focuses on the care and service of a wide variety of animals, from small house pets to large farm animals and all those in between. There are 9 full-time staff that work at the clinic, as well as several individuals who participate in a mentorship program. And here's one more picture. This is the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce Manager Jennifer Weeb presenting Dr. Liz Ostendorf of the Neepawa Veterinary Clinic with the 2022 Business of the Year Award on Monday, January 30th. And speaking of the Chamber of Commerce, there is another article next to it by Owen Devereaux. It was a welcome return to normal for the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce, or NDCC, during its annual general meeting on Monday, January 30th. For the first time since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the event was held in person at the Neepawa Legion Hall as opposed to being a video conference. That shift created a much more jovial feeling throughout all the night's festivities for Neepawa's business leaders. Once dinner was completed, it was down to business in both the figurative and literally sense. First, there was the welcome greeting to attendees by Chamber President Carrie McPherson. After that, guest speaker Rob Wolf of North Star Seed provided a presentation overview of the company and its connections both locally and globally, which we will be reading out about on page 7. Next was the announcement of the business of the year. This year's recipient was the Neepawa Veterinary Clinic Limited. After those items were attended to, there were the Chamber President's remarks as well as a review of the financials. The Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce once again faced a challenging year as COVID restrictions continued to impact our community early in 2022. However, we are very thankful for the support of the business community as those restrictions were lifted and we were able to bring a number of meaningful events to Neepawa over the course of the year, said Chamber President Carrie McPherson. McPherson lauded the success of the second annual restaurant challenge during the summer, the return of the Chamber Fair, and expansion of the town-wide garage sale. As for the Chamber's financial report for the year, indicated that the total expenses for the year were $61,792.52 compared to an overall income of $60,677.61. While a loss is not optimal, with the uncertainty related to COVID restrictions early in the year, the losses could have been much larger. With more certainty in 2023, the Chamber is optimistic about the year ahead. Neepawa Tourism partnered with the Chamber at its AGM for the third straight year and provided an update on the year that was. Tourism Board Chair Pam Brown shared some details on several successful efforts by the board to attract visitors to Neepawa, including the second annual Riverbend Makers Market, the inaugural Rockin' the Riverbend concert, the debut of the Riverbend Antiques Market, and the expansion of Neepawa Tourism Mural Walk. As for tourism's financial outlook, Neepawa's Economic Development Officer Marilyn Crew provided an update on behalf of the volunteer group. The year-end figures noted total expenses last year at $32,607.18, while the income was $29,323.11. Those results created a loss for the year of $3,284.07. Unfortunately for tourism over the years, it has accumulated a financial surplus that allows for these types of one-off loss year over year to be absorbed without issue. So I'll go to page 7 for that other Chamber article. Neepawa Chamber of Commerce hears history of local success story by Ken Waddell. Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce held their 123rd annual meeting on January 30th, and the featured speaker told the gathering about a local success story. Rob Wolf of Neepawa's North Star Seed outlined the history and growth of the company that grew out of a group of 8 Manitoba alfalfa seed producers. The producer group included cousins Don and Jim Pollock, and the venture started in 1982 in the midst of 21% interest rates. Wolf recounted that North Star's accountant stated, "You are a brave bunch." Shareholders were added over the years, products diversified, and international markets developed. Wolf said, "We are currently shipping 4-H seed all over the world. We kind of span the globe," and he proceeded to list a large number of countries. North Star expanded into Michigan in 2012. The company is involved with production and sales of all types of grasses and forage, from hay to pasture to grass for sports fields. "Our products have been used in Olympic stadiums," said Wolf. Recently, North Star signed a deal to be bought by Germany-based Deutsche Saatverwaltung AG, DSV, which allows some of the original shareholders to retire. DSV has been a customer for over 30 years. Wolf summarized the company's growth and history with 6 pieces of advice. 1. Work with the best people you can find. 2. Learn wherever possible. 3. Pack your suitcase and show up at meetings where no one knows you. 4. Take calculated risks. 5. Maintain your core competencies. And 6. Plan for growth. Oh. All right, so we'll go on to talk about this. It's nice to see our work recognized by Casper Wareham. An Eden-based business ended their Ag Days trip on quite the high note recently. Penno's Machining and Manufacturing took home the first place banner for the 2023 Ag Days Innovation Showcases Animal and Livestock category. A $500 cash prize from Manitoba Ag Days and a $1,000 advertising voucher for the Canadian Cattleman magazine, sponsored by Glacier Farm Media, were also awarded as part of the first place prize. This honor was earned for their trademark hay handler, which originally made its debut in the August 26, 2022 edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. We are very happy to receive the award. It's nice to see our work rewarded, said Howard McKay, owner of Penno's Machining and Manufacturing. Interest was very strong at Ag Days, and we got much positive feedback from farmers and dealers. For those who are not familiar with the hay handler, it is a double bale fork, which allows farmers to pick up 2 round bales at a time for loading and unloading their bale racks. Each fork can be raised independently so that the operator can pick up 2 bales side by side or 1 bale at a time. This is able to be done via the ability for each fork to raise upwards and outwards individually for picking up bales. They can also be set to work in tandem to pick bales up off the racks, keeping each fork at the same level. In this case, the operator could still adjust the spacing between each bale depending on how far apart they want their rows. The original idea for this specific agricultural utility, moving 2 bales at once, sparked from a customer request that McKay received. From there, the rest of the design developments and creation came through trial and error, testing, and a group effort from many different people. The whole process, including patent application, had taken approximately 2 years to complete. After the hay handler became official, 8 units had swiftly been sold. Since then, that total has increased to 12. Getting the principle of a new product out there is hard, McKay shared. I feel this award will help. McKay added, right now, we're working on building inventory and getting everything in order to ship units to the U.S. In his final comments, McKay told the Banner and Press that he has quite enjoyed the hay handler's evolution, stating, I've always wanted to patent something. I learned lots along the way and had lots of fun. He added the best thing is getting the feedback from customers, that the unit works very well and that they are happy with the hay handler. And here we have a picture of Kay and Howard McKay, center, left, and right, of Penno's Machining. We're congratulated by Melanie Owicha of Discovery Farm, Mike Cousins of Manitoba Ag Days, and Colin Rieger of Western Producer on their showcase win. Yeah, so it's these two. The Roxy Theatre this weekend is called A Man Called Otto. When a lively young family moves in next door, grumpy widower Otto Anderson, played by Tom Hanks, meets his match in a quick-witted pregnant woman named Marisol, leading to an unlikely friendship that turns his world upside down. Parental guidance. February 3rd and 4th, showtime 7:30 p.m. And the weekend after that, February 10th and 11th, the show, it just says it's called Plane, Plane, Plane. All right, next we have Helen Drysdale out of Helen's Kitchen. This week it's called Oatmeal Economics. In today's economy, our budgets are stretched to the limits. Grocery shopping is a significant expense in that budget. Did you know that the most economical breakfast food to buy is oatmeal? And I had that this morning. As an oatmeal porridge connoisseur, I see the prices on those ever-shrinking boxes of cold cereal, and I think that the price of those flakes are indicative to the price of steaks. Basically, the more processing a food goes through, the more expensive it is. Not only is oatmeal porridge more affordable, it is so much healthier for you. Those Scotsmen had the right idea. Oatmeal eaters not only feel fuller for longer than their cereal eating counterparts, they eat less at their next meal. Oatmeal's high fiber levels help keep blood sugar levels steady, which helps to prevent rapid spikes in blood sugar after a meal. Besides being a healthy source of carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, and proteins, oats have proven to be a great assistant against digestive problems, diabetes, high cholesterol levels, and money flying out of your pocketbook. Breakfast cereals are loaded with unnecessary amounts of sugar, sodium, preservatives, and additives, which oatmeal does not contain. Beware of instant oatmeal, as those little packs contain a lot of sugar and other not so good stuff. They also cost much more than the regular oatmeal, which does not take that long to cook. To add variety to your bowl of porridge, get creative. Mix in your favorite fruits like bananas, apples, blueberries, etc. Add spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, or pumpkin pie spice. Swirl in some peanut butter, or top it off with your favorite nuts and seeds. Easy to make. I like this in the summer as I preferred a cold breakfast then. So Helen has 3 different recipes this week. The first one is overnight oatmeal. The next one is blueberry oatmeal bake, which you bake for half an hour. That sounds good. And the other is raisin cinnamon oat scones. It's making me hungry. Manitoba farmers urged to make the call on World Wetlands Day, submitted by Ducks Unlimited. On World Wetlands Day, Ducks Unlimited Canada, or DUC, wants to recognize and help farmers who are taking action to preserve natural habitat on their land. Science shows that wetlands can improve crop and livestock production in many ways, explains Mark Francis, Ducks Unlimited Canada's Manager of Provincial Operations in Manitoba. I encourage farmers and ranchers to celebrate World Wetlands Day by contacting DUC or conservation group of their choice to map out a plan to preserve and restore these vital marshes and ponds. Wetlands increase the number of pollinators in farm fields, which means better crop pollination and higher yields. Other beneficial insects found in wetlands are predators of common crop pests like flea beetles in canola. DUC research shows wetlands can cool the air temperature in local fields by up to 3 degrees Celsius, reducing heat stress in vulnerable crops. Another DUC study found restoring drained wetlands can reduce nitrogen and phosphorus running off farm fields into creeks, rivers, and lakes. To reward conservation-minded Manitobans, DUC plans to provide $15.1 million in financial incentives and programming in the coming year, including average payments of $100,000 to landowners who commit to protecting wetlands. A new guidebook detailing DUC conservation programs is available online at www.ag.ducks.ca. Since launching in Manitoba 85 years ago, DUC has partnered with more than 1,500 landowners to conserve more than 700,000 acres. However, southwest Manitoba continues losing approximately 3,200 unprotected wetland acres each year. Keystone Party schedules town hall for Gladstone, written by the Banner staff. The province's newest political party is hoping to make some major inroads within rural Manitoba. The Keystone Party of Manitoba, which was formally launched last year, has announced plans a town hall meeting in Gladstone at Stride Hall on February 17th. In a media statement confirming the event, the group stated that if you want to be a part of the movement that will empower Manitobans, join us February 17th in Gladstone. The release went on to state that party officials look forward to working for Manitoba residents. Come out to hear more about the Keystone Party and share your vision for a better Manitoba. The Grassroots Party gained official status less than a year ago. It is currently led by Kevin Friesen of Manitou. The Keystone Party was born from its assertion that the current political system was not working for Manitobans, and in order for there to be a real change, it would require a different approach. The meeting in Gladstone will begin at 7:30 p.m. on February 17th. The 2023 Manitoba general election is scheduled for October the 3rd. Now we have a large article here. It says, Edson Industries, a source of commotion in the 1970s, by Casper Werhan. Acquisition of new industries was a key focus for Neepawa in the late 60s. This is because its largest industry, the Canadian Salt Company Limited plant, made an announcement in June of 1968 that it was planning to move to Saskatchewan by October of 1969. For those who may be unaware of this business's history, the plant had gotten its start as Neepawa Salt Works in the late 1920s. Then it was bought out by Canada Salt in the early 1940s to become a Canadian Salt Company Limited plant. The company's plans to move came not from lack of salt, as there was still plenty in the underground lake, but from cost. Instead of having to pump brine up from the lake, there would be salt available on the surface at the Saskatchewan location, provided as a byproduct of a nearby potash mining venture located between Regina and Moose Jaw. The Neepawa plant employed 60 staff, the loss of which would have been a major blow to the community if new businesses were not brought in to replace it. However, the Neepawa and Area Development Corporation, or NADCO, had been hard at work to draw in those replacements. Among these was Edson Industries, a manufacturer of trailers and truck campers. Originally from Winnipeg, Edson moved to Neepawa in the fall of 1968 and began production in the town's former airport armory in January of 69. And this is a picture of the former Neepawa Airport Armory building, which became the home of Edson Industries when it moved to Neepawa in 1968-69. From there, it would go on to take its place as one of Neepawa's top industries and later on a point of contention. In September 1969, Mars Marine Limited, a Winnipeg-based distributing firm for recreational equipment, bought out Edson Industries Neepawa Limited, making it a subsidiary of Mars. This purchase was made after an agreement was reached between Mars, Edson, and NADCO. Through the deal, Mars Marine gained the facilities necessary to manufacture its Marcraft travel trailer, which at the time had been manufactured for the firm's distribution by Northwest Design and Fabrication Limited in Transcona. For Neepawa, this meant Edson's expansion and an increase in job opportunities. Previously only employing 11 staff, by 1973, Edson Industries had 50 people on the payroll. Later that year, however, is when the big kerfuffle began. Around May that same year, Edson Industries announced that it would be moving from Neepawa to the Uzawiquan Training Center at Rivers in order to continue its expansion. The reasons provided by Mars/Edson for moving to Rivers for this expansion, as opposed to staying at Neepawa, were the lower floor rental rates and available floor space. The floor space at Uzawiquan was 84,000 square feet as opposed to 20,000 at Neepawa. Additionally, the fiberglass roofs of Edson's camper trailers were made by Fiberlex, which was also stationed at the center. Residents of Neepawa, including then Mayor Harry Smith, were upset about this news for a few reasons. One, the loss of jobs. Two, the people of Neepawa and NADCO had raised $50,000 to help get Edson Industries started when it came to town, as it was on the verge of bankruptcy. And three, they felt that Edson Industries was being stolen or lured away from the community by federal funding. Smith himself went on to contact the Prime Minister. Now, Smith, that was the mayor of Neepawa. He went on to contact the Prime Minister and other government officials by letter, expressing his displeasure with the use of such funding to aid the company's moving instead of helping it stay. Smith even led a delegation to Winnipeg to present this case. Smith's case garnered response from the Premier, Minister of Industry and Commerce, and the manager of Westman Development, all of which stated their disapproval of such a use of funds. These statements in turn got response from officials at Uzawiquan and Mars/Edson, who were displeased by the statements. Both asserted that no grants were involved, that the Department of Regional Economic Expansion nor the Department of Manpower were involved in the Edson negotiations, and that the statements made by the officials were rife with misinformation. Smith himself came to admit that he had incorrectly interpreted the situation when writing his letter, which led to the misunderstanding all around, as the other officials had gotten their information from the letter. W.A. Marr also provided clarification that Edson had approached Uzawiquan and not the reverse. Additionally, that 90% of Edson's current employees were being kept on payroll and provided some assistance to help them move. Marr also stressed that the money Neepawa had loaned to Edson's in the past, when still under management of its previous owners, was paid back to any creditors immediately, and an agreement made with NADCO. Any money owed NADCO, according to Marr, would be paid back in full plus 8.5% to date. The move to Uzawiquan was completed in August of 1973. In 1978, it was reported that Edson was employing a total of 80 persons, with 25% of the company's workforce being Indigenous as part of the Uzawiquan training program. Wages for Indigenous trainees was reimbursed by the government for the first 6 months of employment, though Edson Industries questioned whether or not the subsidy offset production loss while the training was taking place. Additionally, costs to ship in parts was much higher since the business wasn't close to any large industrial centers. Edson Industries stated that this shipping cost was offset by the lower floor rental price. Edson's workforce grew to 180 people during peak seasons and 140 regularly by November of 1977. This, however, would dwindle to just 64 people total by January 18, 1978. The manufacturer experienced very little growth, save for its purchase of the bankrupt Parklands plastic plant at Dauphin the prior year, where it planned to expand productions. In 1980, the Uzawiquan training venture was closed by the Department of Indian Affairs, and the federal government offered the base up for sale. At this same time, Edson laid off several staff members due to high inventory. Shortly after, in January of 1981, Mars put the Edson operation up for sale. Then in June, they were struggling to reopen its doors. One factor cited was fluctuation of staff, as Edson Industries lost staff whenever the future of the Oziquikon training program was in doubt. This was due to employees assuming Edson would close if the program did. With the closure of Edson Industries, employees and business officials sought other ventures. Note, this information was culminated from reports by a variety of newspapers of that time, including the Neepawa Press, Brandon Sun, Rivers Gazette, Winnipeg Free Press, and McGregor Herald. All right, now we have 3 big pictures here to show you. Mighty fine fishing at Lake Irwin. Here we have, oh, these are big. This is Brad Mummery, and this is Sean and Liam Dennis, who went fishing on Lake Irwin recently, securing some significant catches. It was the Dennis's boys' first time fishing, with Brad Mummery saying they did really well because of their positive attitude. Some catches were released as they were 30 inches or longer and were thus over the slot size. And just so you know, the Neepawa Men's Viterra Curling Championship is coming up real fast. This is a schedule of events that can be found in the Neepawa Banner and Press. And it's also online. Tickets available online at neepawacurl2023.com. So Tuesday, February 7th is the Calcutta auction, and then the draws start Wednesday, and it goes all the way to the closing ceremonies on Sunday, February 12th, immediately following the final draw. The concession will be open daily, 30 minutes before the first draw time, and there's also suppers involved each night. Wednesday night is Chicken Chef roast beef supper. Thursday, February 9th is Chicken Chef turkey supper. February is steak pit supper with a live band. And Saturday is a Chicken Chef lunch and a Chicken Chef lasagna supper with a live band called Crossfire. The band on Friday is the Chris Godoni Band. All right, speaking of sports, the Neepawa High School Tigers win big both on and off the ice by Owen Devereaux. While a recent homestand for the NACI Tigers was extremely successful on the ice, the success that was achieved off the ice was much more important to the players, coaches, and supporters of the team. The Tigers played a pair of games last week at the Yellowhead Center. The first of those was on Wednesday, January 25th against the Hamiota Huskies, with Neepawa closing out the night with an impressive 4-0 victory. Miles Willerton, Brody Pollock, Tarek Lapointe, and Jory Kalbaki all scored for Neepawa, while Gatlin Platt picked up the shutout win in net. A notable aspect of the evening happened just before the opening face-off, however, as NACI was able to present a check for $1,000 to Miles for Mental Health, a global initiative geared towards removing the stigma that surrounds mental health. Claire McCannell, the vice president of the local chapter, accepted the check on the organization's behalf. And that is a picture of her with getting the check from some of the players. A few nights later, the NACI Tigers were back at it once again. The Yellowhead at the Yellowhead, this time against the Verdun Golden Bears. In this game, Neepawa started strong, scoring the first 4 goals of the night. That early dominance powered the Tigers to a 10-3 win. Tarek Lapointe and Ward Brister both had 5-point performances. Lapointe had a hat trick and added a pair of assists, while Brister had 4 helpers to go with 1 goal. Other goal scorers included Ryland Sumner, Hayden Delalloy, Cohen and Jory Kalbaki, and Callan Dembo, who contributed with 2 and 2 assists. Goaltender Austin Mikulak picked up the win. While those results on the stat line were impressive, the numbers brought in away from the ice were even better. The game versus Verdun was the NACI's annual Tigers Fight Cancer fundraiser. This event raises funds for local programs through a progressive 50-50, a puck toss, a 50-50 held at the game, and the players making and selling candy bags for several weeks prior to the game. This year, all those efforts brought in an amazing $5,400, which will be given to a few programs that support cancer patients right here in Neepawa. Tigers co-coach Troy Brister told the Banner and Press this game, and more specifically, the fundraising efforts related to it, mean a lot to the players and their families. Over the past 4 years, this event has grown tremendously. With this year's success, the Tigers have raised over $9,000 for various programs that support cancer patients in our town and surrounding areas, said Brister. As soon as this game is mentioned, we have parents volunteering and the team stepping up to do whatever is asked of them. They are all eager to help out, especially knowing the funds raised stay right here in Neepawa. Many families have been impacted by cancer, and they see the importance of what we are trying to do. Our parent group is proud to be able to give back to our community and thankful for all of the support they receive. Brister added that seeing the stands full of supporters for this event as well demonstrates the support of the community, and it means so much to the team to play in front of such a large crowd. You can see them all wearing their pink jerseys. And here we have Heather Brister dropping the puck for the commemorative face-off during the Tigers game against Verdun. Heather's son and Tigers defenseman Troy Brister participated in the puck drop. And still with hockey, the Neepawa Titans must overcome Beasts of the East to secure playoffs by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Titans' path to the playoffs will take them through the most difficult portion of their MJHL regular season schedule. With just 14 games remaining in the season, the Titans will play 11 times against clubs from the Eastern Division. It includes 3 matchups against the current top team in the MJ, the Steinbach Pistons, 2 versus the always difficult Portage Terriers, and 1 final clash with the Winkler Flyers, who just recently won 3 straight games against Neepawa. The rest of the Eastern schedule is against Winnipeg Blues and the Selkirk Steelers and Niverville Nighthawks, who are all still vying for the 4th and final spot in the playoffs on that side of the bracket. The only divisional games left are a pair versus the Swan Valley Stampeders and 1 against the Wayway Wolverines. The first of these all-important games will be on Friday, February 3rd, when the Titans host the Steinbach Pistons at the Yellowhead Center. Start time is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. And speaking of the Titans still, they want you to mark these dates on your calendar. February 3rd, February 19th, and March the 5th. All games. Oh, no, we have lots more than that. February 3rd, February 17th, February 19th, February 25th, March 5th, and March 17th, all at the Yellowhead Center. The Neepawa Titans are holding a snowmobile derby, February 18th. Contact Tom Yando, 204-386-2050. And on March the 3rd, it is the Neepawa area 15th annual sports dinner. Guest speakers, Tyler McGregor, who's captain of the Canada Paralympic sledge hockey team, and a comedian named Dan Verville. Tickets are available at the Titan Store, Neepawa Banner Press, and Harris Pharmacy after February 12th. A portion of the sports dinner proceeds will be donated to local cancer care programs. Requests for nominations for Sportsperson of the Year, which will be presented at the 15th Annual Sports Dinner Friday, March the 3rd. The nominations will be judged on the basis of 4 things. 1, the nominee's contribution to the growth or strengthening of sport and recreation in Neepawa. 2, outstanding leadership skills. 3, volunteerism and personal involvement in sport or recreation. 4, the impact and lasting contribution of the nominee's efforts. In order to assist the organizers' assessment of the nominations, nominators are asked to provide supporting information in a formal letter of nomination. Please email all nominations with attention nomination sports dinner to guinnbro@mts.net. The deadline for nominations is Friday, February 17th, 2023. And still on hockey, Gladstone defeats the Neepawa Farmers in overtime by Owen Devereaux. It was an old-fashioned 1980s style shootout at the Elliott Centre on Sunday, January 29th between the Neepawa Farmers and the Gladstone Lakers. And when it was all said and done, it was the Lakers who came out on top, posting a 7-6 win in overtime. The first period was a wild back and forth as Gladstone scored just 44 seconds into the game. Neepawa would collect the next 3 goals before the Lakers responded with 3 of their own to make it 4-3 after 20 minutes. Things calmed down in the second, with both clubs adding 1 goal apiece. While Neepawa scored twice early in the third to take the lead, Gladstone would tie it up before the end of regulation. For the OT session, Jesse Toth secured the win for the Lakers just 1.39 seconds into extra time. That final goal capped off a huge game for Toth, who had 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists in total. Neepawa's top performances came from Kyle McDonald, who had 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists for the Farmers. With the win, Gladstone improves its record to 12-4-0 on the Tiger Hills Hockey League season, while Neepawa dropped to 6-10-1. All right, and still with sports, this is curling. Neepawa men's bonspiel declares winners. Pictured here are the winners. It was held January 27th to the 29th. The largest end was won by Hamar Jacobsen. Okay, so these are winners of the first event, sponsored by Ends Brother Limited and Sure Grow Services. Kevin Paramore, Tyler Grumpelt, Jason Dirksen, and Ron Kalbaki. Coming in second, third, and fourth were Murray Newton, Adam Jakubowski, and Jack Follows. Here we have the second event winners, sponsored by Neepawa Pharmacy and McLaughlin GM, who was won by Paul Robertson. Paul Robertson, Jeff Cook, Hunter Dundras, and Kieran Barron, who was missing from the photo. Following in order were the Hans Peterson, Darcy Eng, and Jack Kalbaki Rinks. And here are the winners of the third event, sponsored by John's Electric and Gardwine. Grant Babcock, Dwayne Lang, Daryl Oshanik, and Bradley Oshanik. Those following were Darcy Eng, Kyle Sversko, and Keith Babcock Rinks. All right. I'm not sure what this one's about, but It's entitled My Journey from Bristol to Neepawa, Manitoba, submitted by Cabdi Jamek. Margaret Lawrence can be considered one of the greatest writers in Canadian history. 72 years ago, Margaret Lawrence, along with her husband Jack, went to Somaliland, which was ruled then by Great Britain. Jack Lawrence was an engineer who won a contract from the British Empire to dig 40 dams for the people of Somaliland, who were mostly nomads. The plan was to have rainwater fill the dams in the spring and rainy season so the people and their livestock could drink from it later. This became an opportunity for Margaret Lawrence, who presented her talent in writing in Somaliland. She wrote her first book in Somaliland after seeing the gift that God gave to the people with words and poetry, which has a far-reaching meaning. There's not many nations in the world that can claim that. Margaret Lawrence presented her first book, A Tree for Poverty. The title is derived from a passage from a Booker Award Bell's poem, who had exchanged many poems with another poet from Hargeisa called La Femme. In those poems, they exchanged different ideas. The book, A Tree for Poverty, was the first Lawrence she published as Margaret Lawrence. Tens of books followed, including short stories and novels, all of which she wrote after she returned to her home in Canada. In the end, she wrote her memories from Somaliland in another book she named A Prophet's Camel Bell, which she published in 1967. On Wednesday, August 31st, 2022, me, Mohammed Osman Robla, and Mohammed Mutton left in the early morning from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Both Mohammeds and I agreed to leave Winnipeg at 7 a.m. and target Neepawa, the small town where Margaret Lawrence was born in 1927, where her grandparents, who were originally from Scotland and Ireland, used to live. Margaret's father was born in Neepawa. We had arrived in Neepawa at 9:40 a.m., which was a little bit earlier than the time that our hosts were expecting us at the house that Margaret was born in, which is a museum now. We had coffee and tea at a coffee shop not far from the Margaret Lawrence house and spent a short time waiting for the appointment. After our drinks, we headed to Margaret Lawrence's house, where Mr. Blair Chapman, who is the chairman of the committee that manages the Margaret Lawrence Museum, and Brenda Ferguson, who is one of the museum's staff, were waiting for us. After a short greeting, we went inside and went room by room into the Margaret Lawrence house, where we saw many interesting things that we did not know about Margaret Lawrence. Also, we took some memorable pictures. We presented Blair and Brenda gifts we brought from Somaliland, which included hangul, gorof, fondal, kabed, kabo, chandri, and other tools that our ancestors used in their daily life. Back in the time that when their life depended on something, they peeled it from a tree or harvested from their livestock. The journey that took Margaret Lawrence and her husband Jack to Somaliland was a long journey from Canada to England to Cairo by flight. Then there was no direct flight from Cairo to Hargeisa or any other city in Somaliland, so they had to take a ship from Cairo to Berbera. Margaret Lawrence named it The Innocent Journey, and said so in a chapter of her book, Prophet's Camel Bell. So the main question is, why did Margaret Lawrence and her husband come to Somaliland? That is an important question which deserves a correct and sufficient answer. The people of Somaliland, who were nomads, have lived for centuries without water and with water scarcity. It's the biggest tragedy that has befallen these people for as long as history remembers. Water was always far away, scarce, and previously transported by camels and now by tanker trucks. So for Somalilanders today, and 72 years ago when Margaret and Jack Lawrence arrived in our land, the major problem is water. There was some brief time in the mid-70s that Siad Barre, with the help of the Chinese government, made it possible for almost every house in Hargeisa to have water. Even that effort was limited to Hargeisa alone. So why is there no one who produces enough water for the rural and urban areas of Somaliland after that? Margaret Lawrence attempted to answer that and said in her book, Prophet's Camel Bell, that the main reason why the people of Somaliland and their livestock are thirsty is because their land is not productive. But Margaret Lawrence did not know that the people they left 72 years ago are still dying of thirst, even those who live in the capital of Hargeisa. The capital they knew, with a population of 50,000 people in 1972, and now a population of 1.5 million. In my opinion, the answer is not as Margaret Lawrence thought. The real reason that the people of Somaliland have been thirsty for 72 years is because of the stubborn minds of those who rule, those people who call themselves politicians. They are the real problem. They are the group who don't have a solution for the problems that are facing the people. And they are the ones who are not listening, even if somebody offers free advice. Well, okay. Jessica Belcher, New Habitat Conservation Specialist, submitted by Wayne Hildebrand. Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation is pleased to announce that Jessica Belcher will be replacing Wes Pankratz, who is retired, as the Habitat Conservation Specialist out of Minnedosa. Jessica is a perfect fit for the position and Minnedosa office, said Curtis Hullock, Field Manager with Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation, or known as MHHC. MHHC strives to hire local staff to fill our regional offices throughout rural Manitoba to support delivery of our conservation programming. Jessica was raised on Boss Family Farms, a cattle farm along the Little Saskatchewan River near Rapid City. She has a biology degree from the University of Regina and a variety of environmental work experience from across the prairies. I am excited to get started in my new role and to build on all the great work Wes did in the region, said Jessica. It is a great opportunity to work with landowners in a landscape that I am familiar with. My role is to meet with landowners to deliver conservation programs that support wildlife habitat, water quality, biodiversity, and healthy watersheds. My first priority is to get out on the landscape and interact with landowners, Jessica said. Engaging with landowners and producers and building relationships is vital to the success of habitat protection and stewardship in Manitoba. Jessica started with MHHC in 2019 as a technician surveying protected habitat lands across most of Agro Manitoba. In the past few years as the monitoring specialist, I have seen how both flooding and drought has impacted farms. I am excited about conservation programs that MHHC offers that can moderate some of the negative impacts of climate variation. I also like that MHHC pays farmers to protect and conserve habitat that may otherwise be lost. Jessica's office is right beside Tanner's Crossing Park, located at 30 Main Street in Minnedosa. Her region generally includes Erickson, Neepawa, Gladstone, Forest, and Rivers, centered by Minnedosa and Rapid City. She encourages anyone interested in conservation opportunities to drop by the office, call or text at 204-573-4840 or email her at jbelcher@mhhc.mb.ca. MHHC is a Manitoba-based charitable organization dedicated to conservation, restoration, and enhancement of fish and wildlife habitat. MHHC works primarily with farmers on agricultural landscapes. A Night of Mystery at the Roxy. Attendees of the stage performance Assassinating Thompson at the Roxy Theatre were well entertained on January 30th. The performance was part of the Manitoba Theatre Centre's regional tour and created and performed by Bruce Horak. Horak created a painting of the audience while telling his own story and that of the unsolved murder of Canadian painter Tom Thompson. And here we have, excuse me, a correction. The photo featured above regarding Grayson Steen's birthday celebration was originally printed in last week's edition of the paper. However, the photo credit was made in error to Christine Waddell. The Banner and Press is rerunning the photo with the corrected photo credit, which belongs to Marla Steen. The Banner and Press apologizes for this error. Okay. Guess we'll go back. Great. Homebodies by Rita Friesen. This week her article is announced 15 minutes. There's usually a list or a pile of things that should be done or what I want to get done. Sounds familiar. I keep adding to the list or pile, and every once in a long while I settle down and get things done. It always amazes me that the task I dreaded and postponed takes about 15 minutes. Case in point, my sister created a picture frame using a plain wooden frame, a Scrabble tile holder, and the tile spelling out sisters. The picture, of course, was of two of my sisters and myself. Several of the tiles had come loose, and every time the picture was moved or jostled, the tiles fell out. I have a glue gun, glue sticks, and an abundance of time. So this week, I took the 15 minutes to repair the whole thing. 15 minutes, and the tiles have been wandering for years. Another case in point, a longtime friend and family member is in rough waters. We used to exchange lengthy, thought-provoking and thought-inducing letters back when cursive writing was the norm. Again, I have the pen, the paper, the envelope, and the stamp, so why does it become such a huge ordeal? I admit I cheated on this one. I have found the cursive font on my processor, and after offering words of hope and encouragement and sharing portions of my life journey, I hit send, and with moments she received an email letter. The response was almost immediate and the thanks profuse. Again, it took 15 minutes and made a difference on a loved one's day. 15 minutes. It doesn't always work out that smoothly. I have been wanting to shift a medium-sized piece of furniture, small enough that I can do it myself, and place a bookshelf in the space. I have the bookshelf. I certainly have the books. This time it was a case of deep cleaning the space and the bookshelf and choosing which books were needed. Me and my books spells time. I do get sidetracked fairly easily, so it took a good bit more than 15 minutes, and it was another chore ticked off. And now the reveal. I am by nature a procrastinator. One 15-minute project got derailed. The garment under reconstruction has been setting on the sewing machine for long enough. I need to find a solution or discard the project. I think I am waiting for inspiration to strike and a satisfactory resolution be attained. I am waiting so that 15-minute project can't be counted as a success. It truly amazes me what can be accomplished in brief periods of time. I took 15 to clean the interior of the dishwasher. Liked that so much, I cleaned the fridge and freezer. A few more minutes in the kitchen, and the toaster and the microwave were once again fit for continued usage. That was a series of 15s, and it was satisfying. I appreciate 15-minute power naps and 15-minute coffee breaks, and 15-minute phone calls. Heck, much of my day, if productive at all, has been 15 minutes here and there. 1/4 of one of the 24 hours of the day. And I got something accomplished. All right, Seeking the Truth, right in the center by Ken Waddell. First, he has a disclaimer. The views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Banner and Press staff. To the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, "If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John chapter 8, New International Version. The above quotation, especially verse 32, is often quoted. No politician that I have known quoted it more often than former NDP Premier Gary Doer. I heard him say it many times. He didn't always follow it, as he often would shout in the Manitoba legislature, "The Conservatives fired 1,000 nurses." That wasn't true, and he knew it, but the effect of that convenient sound bite resonated so well and sucked both the media and portions of the voting public into believing it. No matter how many times it was refuted, many people accepted the fired nurses' statement as truth. What I understand, what I understand actually happened is that in the 1990s, individual hospitals and care homes contracted with nurses. When regionalization took place, those contracts were terminated and converted to contracts with the regions. Just as a matter of interest, the current Prairie Mountain region is made up of several of the 1990s Virgin regions and now stretches basically from the U.S. border to Swan River and from Highway 34 to the Saskatchewan border. The nurses were not fired but given new contracts. There were a few less nurses in positions due to moving out of province and retirements, but I was told it was less than 100. The point is that with a Manitoba election coming up, the three political parties, the unions, and many others will be offering up their version of the truth. I say version of the truth, as the actual truth may be elusive. The progressive conservatives will say that they got through COVID-19, have made extra expenditures to help people offset the cost of federal carbon tax, are funding several rec centers and new hospitals, and reducing school taxes on property. The opposition parties and unions representing government workers will claim that the PCs bungled COVID-19, have cut healthcare dollars, and aren't spending nearly enough on numerous other projects. I have spoken to politicians and union people both personally and through this column. It is hopefully apparent to them and readers in general that when it comes to history, politics, and policies, that this paper will not knowingly publish things that aren't true. This paper will also offer various opinions on the pages by way of columns and letters to the editor. I am not saying we haven't fallen short from time to time, but readers should expect the truth, and if a statement isn't true, it better be in quotation marks and attributed to a particular person, political party, or union. Voters have a responsibility to evaluate all they hear and read and decide what is true and what is simply political posturing. In keeping with the Bible quote at the top of this column, it is only the truth that sets people free. Not knowing the truth or not accepting it is what nearly destroyed the United States over slavery. Rather than fight the deadliest war, the Civil War, the United States could have spent the cash to compensate the slave owners. And that's just the cost in dollars and doesn't include the deaths, injuries, agony, and discord that still affects the U.S. today. Not telling the residents about the sale of the huge tracts of land in Manitoba in 1869 and the plans to develop the agriculture capacity of the West has scarred Canada's relations with the Métis and First Nations people to this day. In today's era, healthcare is a big topic, and it has been splattered with untruths for decades. Canadian Medicare was not invented by Tommy Douglas, but by Matt Anderson, the Reeve of the RM of McKillop, Saskatchewan. It was operated on a municipal level after being adopted by a provincial Liberal government in 1938. It was well over 20 years before it came into effect for all of Saskatchewan and then Canada. Tommy Douglas worked hard for Medicare, but he was not the father, not even close. Today, the theme is that healthcare needs more money, but if you talk to anybody in the industry, from workers to politicians to union leaders, money is not the whole answer. Money may not even be the most important factor. The common theme is that frontline workers are not consulted enough. Truth is found in the trenches, and it's rare for politicians or union leaders to actually visit the trenches and actually seek the truth. All right, so I have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to read one more article. Actually, I'll show this Gladstone Glory Years, Strachan's class of 1915. This photo, dated to 1915, appeared in Chapter 9 of the Gladstone's Glory Years booklet series. Although no names for the Sunday school students were available, Mrs. Reverend Strachan was identified as the teacher. All right, so Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine. This week his article is entitled Laying the Foundation. Last week's column gives me a good foundation on which to build a series that I hope will help us rethink our views of those around us. For years, we have heard people of all political, social, economic, and religious beliefs speak out against racism in our society. Their statements have been carefully worded, and they have produced many positive changes in Canada's laws. So then, why does it seem, to me at least, that racism in our society is getting worse instead of better? How have we become a society in which people feel that they must play the race card to receive fair treatment when applying for a job or get justice for wrongs they have suffered? How have we reached the place where we need public inquiries to identify systemic racism in some segments of our society? What is the wrong, and more importantly, how can this wrong be corrected? Part of the problem can be traced to the way our society deals with racism. We expose racist activities where we find them, as we should. We demand change from those who are guilty of racism, as we should. But legally, that is all that we can do. If we want to eradicate racism in our society, we must identify the root of which racism is the fruit. To do that, we must turn to the one who created this world and put us in it. Every year, the Canadian Council of Churches designates January 18th to the 25th as Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. This year's resource package international booklet was prepared by the Minnesota Council of Churches using the theme, Do Good, Seek Justice. Given some of the recent events in the state of Minnesota, I was glad to see their Council of Churches address the spiritual component of racism. The international booklet contains a homily suitable for use at an ecumenical week of prayer service. Hidden in one of the footnotes for this homily is the best explanation of racism roots that I have ever read. There is only one race, the note reads, and that is the human race. However, we must acknowledge that the myth of race has caused the reality of racism. Race is not biological, it is a social construct which separates humanity according to physical traits. It is important to acknowledge that while the term may not be used in various parts of the world, racism has been used as a tool to effectively divide and oppress groups of humans. Those words identify the root of racism far better than I ever could, and they identify one critical question every person on earth must answer: through whose eyes will I see the people around me? Through my eyes or through God's eyes? If we look at people through our own eyes, we will focus on the differences, on the things that separate us into different people groups, and sow the seeds that lead to racist beliefs, embed them in our minds, and further divide an already fractured society. If we look at people through God's eyes, we will gain a deeper appreciation for our heritage, as descendants one common ancestor and thus members of one human race. You must decide if you will see others through your eyes or God's. I cannot make that decision for you. I would, however, advise all people to choose carefully and choose wisely. Your future and the future of our society could depend on it. So that does it for this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. So thank you for joining us. I hope you will join us again next week, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.